Democratic Congressman Khanna, whose district is located in Silicon Valley. Congressman, always good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. I'd like to just start with your reaction to this decision. They did uphold the ban, but we're also going to face another decision point in 6 months.
Casey, I thought it was an incredibly thoughtful decision, and I hope people will read it. It's not just based on international law. International law on this is actually very consistent with U.S. law in Brandenburg. And basically what the board is saying is it's a correct decision given the threats of violence, given the threat to safety, but you can't just set a precedent of indefinite suspensions and deplatforming, not just Trump, but millions of users. And Facebook needs to be clear about what would trigger that penalty and have greater clarity and standards. So I was very impressed, actually, with the decision.
Do you think Facebook should ban former President Trump permanently in 6 months?
Well, I think what they said is correct, that they should ban as long as it's a threat of increased violence, which clearly right now it is. I mean, just yesterday, President Trump is out there promoting the big lie, so he's still stoking violence. If at some point they conclude that that threat doesn't exist, then I think it would be appropriate to revisit the issue. But what I think the board is saying is they're less concerned about Donald Trump. What they're concerned about is setting a precedent of the permanent deplatforming of individuals, millions of people who don't have access to what Donald Trump has. And they're saying that's a really tough penalty. You need to have clear standards of when you're going to do that and not abuse it.
So, Congressman, obviously this plays into what we're seeing unfolding in the Republican Party, Liz Cheney versus Trump. President Biden just saying moments ago he doesn't understand the Republican Party after, of course, Steve Scalise, the #2, came out against Liz Cheney as Republican conference chair. We, of course, had Kevin McCarthy caught on a hot mic on Fox News venting about Cheney. I think we can play that real quick, and then we'll talk about it on the other side.
I think she's got real problems. I've had it with it's, you know, I've lost confidence.
So all of them essentially turning on her. Elise Stefanik getting an endorsement from former President Trump to take her place. What do you make of all of this, and what kind of platform will Liz Cheney have in the wake of this?
Casey, it's really mind-boggling. I mean, the Republican Party has a total identity crisis. I say this as someone who's had vehement disagreements and arguments with Representative Cheney on the Armed Services Committee. We have totally different views of foreign policy. But let's be clear about why Liz Cheney is being removed from her position, or why they're trying to do that. Her offense is recognizing that Joe Biden is the legitimate president of the United States. Can you believe that you cannot have a leader who believes that Joe Biden is president? How do they expect President Biden to work with them when they don't even recognize that he's legitimate?
Congressman, can you just very quickly touch on what are relationships like right now between you and some of your Republican colleagues, especially those who people suspect or are frustrated with in terms of the January 6th insurrection?
It's been difficult. I've had the opportunity to reach across the aisle where I can. I'm working with Mike Gallagher and Senator Todd Young and Senator Schumer on Endless Frontiers, people who are reasonable in saying, yes, I understand Joe Biden won the election. You can work with those individuals. But when you have people who are saying we're going to impede Joe Biden at every step of the way because we don't believe he was legitimately elected, it's very difficult. I mean, how are you supposed to work with them when they don't believe that Joe Biden is the president of the United States? And that is really a tragedy that we're still dealing with that to this day, months after the January 6th insurrection.
All right, Congressman Khanna, thanks very much for taking some time to be with us today. We really appreciate it.